One way to measure it is the growth in money supply, annualized. For most of the past 10 years, the growth of money supply was over 5%, but then because of this massive spike towards the end of it, now it's more like 8% over the past 10 years. We've really kind of backloaded it. That's kind of a baseline, but going forward, it could be probably even more than that.
The company he's built is larger than the man who built it. He has infused Berkshire with a set of cultural attributes that give it the very best chance of surviving and prospering long after he is gone. And it includes these points about permanent ownership, about autonomy, about trust, about having a very high hurdle for investments and for people.
So 1 foot hurdles are a central piece of my strategy. And it's a pillar of my investment approach that sometimes even the biggest, most well-followed companies can get mispriced by the market. And so you just have to look at the 52-week high and low list in any given year. It doesn't have to be a volatile year like 2020. I've done this over the last 4 or 5 years. I do this about once a year.
It's an asymmetric bet on Bitcoin of what it's valued at today and what likely will happen as governments can't stop gravity from happening by printing money. The likely beneficiary is something like Bitcoin. There needs to be a new standard going forward. And I think the most probable right now is Bitcoin. Like gold's running high right now. Gold's also a decent investment, but in a land where everybody's destroying currency value.
In 1915, inflation, this is US CPI, was 1%. In 1917, 2 years later, it was 20%. In 1945, it was 1%. 2 years later, it was 19%. In 72, it was 3%. 2 years later, it was 12%. And so that's how quickly these things happen when they happen. And we've built up a hell of a lot of complacency in all component parts of this financial system that we operate in. And inflation is a big part of that.
Boy, the globalization has been remarkably disinflationary for labor, for stuff, for consumer goods. And another way we can read that document, that great power competition document, is globalization's dead. And now we're going to go back to relocalizing. And that, by definition, is going to bring back inflation. It's going to be more expensive to make elsewhere because, look, 7 of the 10 biggest container ports in the world are in China.
Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on the next podcast episode and new investing resources.
What are your takeaways and thoughts on this discussion? Let us know in the comments section below.